Yeah. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 100 to the Grace, Peace, and Balance podcast by Gabby Abdelgadir. And today I have an incredible guest, a great leader, and a great friend. His name is Lee Grigsby, and he is a health and life coach. Welcome to my podcast,
Thank
Lee.
you. Thank you, Gabby, so much. And perfect pronunciation.
I did? Okay, good. Because
Absolutely.
like always, people always have a problem with my family name. You didn't have a problem with my family name, which was great. Okay, so Lee, why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners and to people who will be watching this?
Absolutely. Well, and thank you, Gabby, for having me on. I am Lee Grigsby, CEO and founder of Live All Good Coaching, LLC. I'm a health and a life coach. While I have coached around many different things and I've, had many different clients, my passion right now is coaching men. And I really want to dial in and help men zero in on understanding we are emotional beings as well. And it's okay to go ahead and express that and feel that. So that is my mission at the moment. I also have a podcast that Gabby has been on. I actually have 3 different series. They're all under the Live All Good podcast family. And thank you again so much for being a guest.
Thank you.
I am thrilled to be on episode 100 of your podcast. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. So can you tell us a little bit, you have 3 podcasts. Can you tell us each one what the series is all about? Yeah.
Absolutely. So when I first began coaching, which I began coaching in 2019, that's when this journey started for me. The podcasting really was about just putting my own message out there. I wasn't podcasting. A lot of people start because they think, oh, I can monetize it or whatever your purpose is for podcasting. Mine really was to get my message out there. And so the first series that I started with, I call it the Spotlight series. That series is just about businesses or people, products, or maybe ideas that align with the type of coaching that I evolve into or that I aligns with me. Mm-hmm. The second series that I do is called Move the Needle. That's the one that you appeared on.
Yes.
I started that episode or that series in 2020 after George Floyd was murdered. I had made a post on social media and I had called out my white male friends. And I spoke to them through this post about if they could not see my face and imagine me under that knee, then they need to look in the mirror and understand what's going on with themselves. So one of my friends, a coaching friend, reached out and really was moved by what I had to say. And the Move the Needle podcast was born from that, because while it focuses a lot on the racial inequities, not just mostly here in the States, but sometimes around the world, it also focuses on the social injustices, but that's not what we just want to limit it to. And with Move the Needle, we want to, as the great Congressman John Lewis had said, I love how he did this. We want to call people out on those things, but we want to call them in, because it takes everyone to be part of the solution. So Move the Needle will highlight a lot of the issues, but also accept everyone where their understanding is, and then have everyone try to be part of the solution. So that's where Move the Needle was born. And then the third series that I do is called Cruising with the Coaches. That is from one of my friends I grew up with. And what we try to do is talk about topics every day and how they affect everyday people. And we just have our opinions about it. and it's a conversation with Julie and Lee.
Okay.
So we want people to feel, we don't want people to feel separate from what we do. We want them to understand you're not the only one who goes through something. So maybe you can get a different perspective from our conversation.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's incredible. You're busy. When do you have time to do 3 episodes? And you're still working, right? You're still working.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my background, like I said, I just started coaching in 2019.
Yeah.
My background is in television and television production.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've been doing that for almost, let me do the math, make sure I do it right. I've been doing that since I was 18. So we're at like 29 years.
Wow. Yeah.
I'll tell you a secret, Gabby.
Okay.
I never really was meant to be, or never wanted to go into television.
Okay.
And yet I've been here 29 years. So when I graduated from high school, in high school, about 16 or so, sophomore year, I took a drafting class and I loved it. The precision, the measuring, the designing, I loved it. So I wanted to be an architectural engineer.
Okay.
That's what I wanted to be.
Okay.
Get to college, and a lot of times the counselors that you have coming in, they help guide you into the path that you want for the next 3, 4, or longer years that you're in college.
Yeah.
So the guidance counselor that I had did not quite do so well and said, yeah, well, you know what? We don't have that as a major. So at 18, I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. What am I? I have no idea.
Yeah.
So one of my friends actually said, hey, you know what? I know some people up here at the TV studio. Come up here, because that was one of the courses. And I went to Ohio University. That's in Southeast Ohio.
Okay.
It was well known for TV production. Okay. So they were like, yeah, come on up. I'll show you around. I'll introduce you to people. And I was hooked at 18. I started working on some of the shows with some of the people literally my freshman year. And that was what I graduated doing. So I went to a smaller market in Cleveland, Ohio. That's originally from Oberlin, Ohio, which is just outside of Cleveland. And worked there in the TV market for 8 to 10 years before I moved to Washington, D.C., where I am now. Okay. And I work for a company called Eurovision. Okay. And TV has afforded me a great life, Gabby. Like I would not, nice to hear. Absolutely, I would not trade it. I wouldn't trade it. I've met wonderful people. I've been able to travel to do some jobs. I was able to go to super secret. I don't want to, anybody to really know this, although it's not secret. Okay. I had an assignment in Bermuda.
Oh my God. And then how long did you have to stay there?
About 6 weeks. So it was for the America's Cup. I know, tough life, right? Now, I won't tell you about the bad parts where it rains and you're there till 2, 3 in the morning. Yeah. That's no fun. But the ability to travel for work in television and have an opportunity like that is amazing. So,
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
Absolutely. So yes, that was my background. And I would say, again, right before I started the coaching training, I was looking for a way to give back to my community, give back to, younger men, because at the time, and I, not so much the world, but probably the world at the same time, but here in the United States, things were just extremely divisive, like much more divisive than I had ever imagined or been part of.
Yeah.
And I was at the point where I said, okay, well, how can I have a choice. I can either be part of the problem, continuing the divisiveness, or how can I be part of the solution? And at that point is when I started this coaching journey.
This
Absolutely.
coaching journey. Oh my God. Yeah. Being part of
Yes.
the solution. So are you, for real. Like
No.
how, so that encouraged you to, who inspired you to become a leader? Like any inspirations that you must have had some?
Oh, absolutely. Well, if I took a moment to think back through my life, there have been many inspirations, but
Yeah.
I will say the reason that, and I don't believe in coincidence. So when I started my coaching journey, I was 44 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and the 44th president of the United States was Barack Obama.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a huge inspiration at that time for me, because what kept ringing true was being the change that I want to see.
Yeah.
And that's what meant to me, okay, if I want to be the change that I want to see, then I need to find a way to be part of the solution and not continuing this path of divisiveness that I was seeing.
Divisiveness. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he was one. Any others that you can mention?
Oh,
Because I
sure.
have a lot of people who have inspired me in my lifetime.
Well, I'm actually talking to someone who has inspired me, although they may not know it.
Oh,
Yes,
my
yes, that's
God.
you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Lee. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And so
But
did you. Yeah. And so did you.
I appreciate it. I definitely have to say, my mom was an inspiration. So, I think we had talked about this before, podcasting, but so my mom passed away in 2020, but ironically, she was my first ever podcast episode.
She was your guest?
Yes, she was my first ever guest.
Oh.
And because I felt it important for her story to be heard, right? And at the time that she was my guest, we had known that she had terminal cancer. So it's ironic, because I did not do, a lot of people think, oh wow, that's great, like you did that so you can have that for a memory. And I promise you, Gabby, it really was all about her. And I wanted people to hear her story. So that episode is, to this day, my most listened to episode.
Oh my God, do I have the link?
I think so. If not,
me the link. If not,
I will send it to you again.
Yeah, please.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That is my most listened to episode. And the title of it was Strength, Faith, and Mindset.
Oh wow. Was that on the Move the Needle one? No,
that was this. It was a spotlight series.
A spotlight. Yeah. Okay.
So like it, and I called it that. I titled her episode that because and I want everyone to kind of hear this, right? Someone who knew they had terminal cancer still made the choice, and we had talked about it. She and I had this conversation, and I think she had earned the right to say, well, no, you know what? I don't want any treatment. I will live out the rest of my days, right? Because she was a cancer survivor from breast cancer before that. So this was her second bout with cancer.
Yeah.
But again, understanding that it was terminal, and she made the choice to go through chemotherapy and surgery, knowing that it's not going to save her, right?
Mm-hmm.
That to me is an amazing choice that one makes for themselves,
Absolutely.
That means that they're not giving up, that they're going to fight till the end, and they may just have something of value. So whatever it takes, you keep fighting for that. So that was my inspiration for having her as my first podcast guest.
My God,
also she was also my guinea pig. Like, I hadn't really worked out how to podcast.
Yeah.
So of course you're like, hey mom, you want to be my guest? Of course I will. Yes. But
oh, that is so cute. Yeah, but I think she's right. Me, like as you may, like my husband passed away from cancer. 2.5 years, harsh chemotherapy, failed surgery. When they did the surgery, they found out they were to remove half of his stomach. And then when they did the surgery, opened up, they found out that the cancer had spread everywhere. So they had to sew
Absolutely.
him back. It was the worst news that we ever had, especially for him.
Sure.
And after going through all this, and he ended up passing after 2.5 years, I thought about the whole process. My decision is this: number one, if ever, God forbid, something like that had to happen to me, I will, number one, consider only and only either naturopathic treatment or Ayurvedic treatment, or else I'm going to just enjoy my life and die in peace without having to throw up 24/7, without the pain, without all the negative news that I keep on getting from the doctor. So that is my decision.
Sure.
Actually, I'm going to put it on my will.
That's a smart choice to do.
Yeah.
Because if you get to the point where you cannot make that decision, it will already be spelled out what your decision is.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No chemo.
Absolutely.
No freaking surgery. Nothing. I want to die in peace, have a decent life until the end of my day. Yeah.
The chemotherapy, and it's I don't know if there's a word to really describe it other than brutal, but yeah. No.
People say that it has improved a lot, the treatment now, the chemo. So people don't immediately start losing their hair, or the throwing up is a lot less and all that. What about the pain? Oh my goodness gracious. So I don't care how they have improved it or what they have done with it. I definitely am not going to do that, which a good reminder now. I have to put that in my will. And I want to die in peace. I'm definitely going to see like a naturopathic. I'm huge into natural medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, naturopathic medicine. Yeah, one executive actually told me smoking marijuana is one of the medicines for this disease.
Yes, like the smoking marijuana, the CBD oils.
CBD,
absolutely. There's something to be said. You know, we talk a lot about modern medicine and all those type of things. I'm not going to be a conspiracy theorist here, and I'm not going to say that modern things are bad. But there's a reason that we need the modern medicine, because of the way that we have begun to modernize our food source. If you don't modernize, or shall I say, package the food source and process it, then you don't need to help correct what's already going in the body with the modern medicine. That's probably an unpopular opinion for many people. But if you strive for cleaner eating, and I'm not saying don't eat meat, right? Quality meats are available as well. Yes, but I think that is part of, you know, how people can develop cancer. There's so many things in the processed food that we don't know about, that you never know what leads to it. So that's also part of, I will say this. So again, when my mom was diagnosed, the health coaching part, I was really new into it, and I just learned some things, but I helped her kind of adjust her diet. And so her diagnosis with the cancer she had was peritoneal carcinoma. It's a type of colon cancer. But the diagnosis or prognosis is about 6 to 8 months after you are diagnosed. Okay. She lived for another 2 years.
Oh my God.
So
I just had goosebumps without chemo, without anything.
And I think I helped with how we rearranged her diet, you know? And I mean, and eventually, obviously, the cancer caught up to her, you know?
But, obviously,
But the two past the approximate time that they give you once you're diagnosed with that.
Absolutely.
So she was definitely. I know we went off on the tangent about the cancer and chemotherapy, but she was definitely an influence in my life for sure. Thinking about other influences, I would have to say like along my path growing up, you know, a young man, there were several people. I want to tell this story real quick.
Mhm.
So I was academically dismissed from college. You know, long story short, I messed around, didn't do what I had to do, got academically dismissed. So I moved home and had to get a job. While I was at this job, and this is what made me think about some situations in your second book, okay,
Mhm.
about discrimination.
Mhm.
So I was 19, 20 years old, working in a warehouse, and they expand the system. I'm working second shift. There's a few people working first shift in this department where we're fixing discrepancies in the system. Okay.
Okay. Mhm.
So they opened up a new position. The entire warehouse understood that I was perfect for the position because of all the problems that I fixed on this second shift.
Mhm.
There was another woman on the first shift. She was a white woman who worked with the other team of two during the day.
Okay.
Not only would I fix the issues that they hadn't fixed, but then I was fixing my own on my own shift. All right. When it came time for this position, it was between the two of us.
I
And
know where this is going.
you absolutely know
I
where this is
know where
going.
this is going. Okay.
And so they said, well, she's a better fit with the team. She's been here longer. But yet they knew that I had the better skill set. So I was like, okay, I get it. At the time, my supervisor kept telling me, why are you working here? You need to get your butt back in school, right? She was like, go back to college. Why are you even here? This is not where you're meant to be. And so when she was retiring, she was like, look, I'm retiring, but you got 6 months to leave.
Oh.
And so I did. I mean, and that's when I went back to school. So she was an inspiration. Then going back to school and facing those demons, right?
Mhm.
By the time I went back, I was like 22, but trying to think that what are people going to think about me? There's people still here that I started with. Do they like me anymore? All of those things as a young guy, right?
Oh, yeah.
And one of my professors from my freshman year was now the director of the department. And I called him, Lee, so great to hear from you. I was like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. Oh.
So yeah, he worked out a way for me to get back. I got a job while I was there. So yeah, I've had, as I will put it, many angels in my path along the way. Absolutely. They have
Oh.
all been like the inspirations for where for the person who's right here with you on the podcast. Absolutely.
Oh, that is so beautiful. Yeah, I think we all
Yeah.
needed somebody like that. I don't think growing up I ever had someone who inspired me. My
Mhm.
mom was an inspiration. I always looked up to her, but she was way too tough.
You got a
Yeah.
lot of tough love
Oh my God.
frequently.
Yes. And trust me, the beating that I got growing up would have been enough for a dozen kids. My
Mhm.
brother, I only had one brother, and he was about 6 years older than me. So technically, I had nobody to play with except for the nanny at the time. So yeah, and growing in the Catholic school, the Italian nuns were not very nice, I have
Oh,
to say. Oh my God, you're gonna read some of that story in the
I
Grace Peace
am.
Balance, yeah.
I am.
Yeah, in the
Absolutely.
Grace Peace Balance. So yeah, the things that I went through in the Catholic school where I grew up, they
Mhm.
were all. That's where I picked up the accent, by the way. Like the first 6 years of my life, they were all Italians, and I only had one teacher who's local that teaches us the local language, right?
Oh, nice.
So yeah, but the beating that I got from those nuns, and so I don't think I ever had like someone that I called an inspiration up until we
Mhm.
moved countries and I started working, and I always was a book addict, like very like into books, but it
Sure.
was always fiction books at the time up until I came to start reading spiritual and personal growth books, right? So yeah, and then after
Mhm.
that, I could say I had worked with executives that became mentors. Even though I'm no longer in the job, they're still my friends, they're still my mentors. And yeah, I guess that's it. And not to mention, I am a Mahatma Gandhi big fan.
Yes.
Piece. Oh my God. My mom and I watched his movie, the whole story, and I have read his book. Like Mahatma Gandhi would be my ideal
inspiration.
Exactly. Him and Nelson Mandela. And then you got, you got all these top leaders that I know. And
well, they have absolutely big shoes to fill, right? So I don't want anyone to think that those leaders do not inspire me. But, it's hard to imagine yourself being on that level of leadership or inspiration because you're in it. And that's not what you strive for anyway. Like no one strives to be, well, I take that back. They might strive to say, yeah, I want to lead people, right?
Yeah.
But the goal is always, at least, my mission, and I know yours as well, is like equity and inclusion and acceptance and love, right? That's how it works. Even though we've both tried some of the opposite methods and those work to a degree.
Yeah, I know, seriously. Yeah, that is true. That is true. And I know that I don't know if you saw my post on LinkedIn, and I think you could be a great help for all those young Black men.
Yes. Well, I want to share this story. I went to the store. So I've created an online course.
Okay.
I've made it for all men, but the intention of this course is for young Black men.
Okay.
So that way it's something that they can afford, but they have just enough stake in it that they have to commit to it. Right.
Yeah.
So I was at the store, was going to pick something up to make dinner. And I had purchased meatballs, something like that. I'm leaving the store and I'm like, no, you know what? Let me go back to the stand and get a coffee that's inside the store. Okay. Young Black guy working there. So, okay. He makes the coffee and I'm waiting for the coffee and I'm like, okay, cool. You know what? This young Black guy has a job, seems to be a good kid. I get the coffee. I turn back around and I'm like, hey, let me ask you something. I'm like, well, I said, how old are you? He was like, I'm 18. It's like, okay, cool. I said, well, what if you could take a course that could kind of help you connect with other men and kind of help you figure out what your next steps are? What would you do with that? And he was like, wow, I could see doing that. And I was like, okay. I said, well, what would you pay for that? Like, how much would you pay? And, he wasn't quite sure because he's still in high school, right? And I said, well, you got a job and that's great. Would you pay $60 a month for that? He was like, yeah, I got that. I was like, great. It's a 5-month course. There's 3 lessons per week. And the 4th week of the month, it's a live coaching call with me. And he was like, wow. And I was like, yeah. He was like, do you have a card? I was like, well, I don't have a card, but I can give you the link to sign up for the course. So I wrote all this down and hopefully he signs up, but I can go back to the store and follow up with him. But I share that because yes, right. If I want to help these young Black men, I have to meet them where they are.
Yeah.
So I could have easily left the store. I could have easily gotten the coffee and left, right?
Yeah.
But what kept pulling me back until I realized, oh, Lee, this is who you're trying to help, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. That was the purpose. That was the universe speaking to me like, okay, you're not done yet. No, you got what you needed and you're not done yet.
You're not done yet. Yeah.
Oh, you got your coffee. Oh, no, you're not done yet.
Yeah.
So I thank you for encouraging me also, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the inspiration that I get from you as well. You've been on this path and yes, it's my turn and we're going to do this together as well. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then like, can you imagine if each Black kid in the streets, if he could find someone like you to just have a nice conversation the same way you did with this young man, can you imagine? No, but people are so busy driving their BMWs, they don't give a hoot of what the other kids are doing. They don't. Honestly,
Exactly.
the number of shooting and killing one another between young kids, it's unbelievable. One of the reasons that I gave up TV completely, the cable completely, because that's the first thing that comes up. Oh, in this intersection, there was this shooting, a 14-year-old killed an 18-year-old. How are even like a 13, 14-year-olds getting guns? Like, and then it's just so sad. That's what's happening. So I think they do people like you, like, for example, me being a woman, I don't think they would listen to me.
Well, they would to a degree, right? Because they will, but then they're like, oh, okay, it's kind of like my mom or something, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
My son tells me that. Like, he tells me, Mom, I love you. You're very smart, but there are certain things I cannot discuss with you, you know? So yeah, so we don't like, but I try to give him always like one nice sentence, one nice advice and things like that. And he's an avid researcher as well. And so he follows all these Black spiritual leaders on YouTube, and he makes me subscribe to them and all that stuff, which is a good thing, right?
Yeah.
But
well, I can tell you as someone's son, it is in there. What you tell him, what you say, it's there. It is there.
Yeah, but
it definitely is there.
Yeah, I hope so.
And you know what? I can relate to that. And I want to share this with your listeners, and another story I get to share with you.
Yeah.
So going back to high school, right? Now I will say that, like, my dad was always there. For the final couple of years, he had gotten another job and was in a different state at the time for the last 2 years of high school. So this particular story I'm going to share is probably something that fathers would have either done for their sons or shown them how to do it. Okay. So at the time, and I still love basketball. That's probably one of my most favorite loves is basketball. Played basketball all through high school. This is my senior year. And I don't know if you're aware of a coach who was named Bobby Knight. He was from a university. His reputation was like yelling and always demeaning and berating his players. Okay. Well, my high school coach had that very same coaching style and reputation. All right. So again, like I was a decent kid. Like I respected adults. I didn't curse them out, that kind of thing. So we would go through practices, and some of the other guys would, be making fun of him behind his back, to his face, telling him what they were going to do, weren't going to do. Okay. I didn't do those kind of things. So we're practicing, and I make a mistake, and he like rips me up one side, down the other. I'm like, wow. Okay. So at that point, we still had to finish practice. And I had decided at that point that I was quitting the team. Okay. This was my senior year in high school. And everyone knew this is what I love to do. Right. So after practice, and mind you, I didn't say anything during practice, finished practice. I had to wait for a couple other guys because I was taking them home. So I'm like, hey guys, wait a minute. I got to go in here and talk to the coach. Right. I went into his office, and at the time, I was so angry and also hurt from about to do what I was going to do that I was crying. But I sat across from his desk, and I was like, look, you know what? I don't appreciate what you were saying to me. I come in here. I've been playing for you for 3 years now. Like, I give it my all. I do everything you ask me to do. I've changed positions, all this stuff. I don't talk about you. I don't say this to your face, right? All of these factual things. And so he sat there, and he said to my face, well, that's the way I coach. If you don't like it, there's the door. I said, okay. So I walked out the door.
What a jackass. Oh my God. Did I just swear? Oh my God. Oh my God.
Well, that's probably putting it lightly.
I'm so sorry.
No,
but
don't be sorry.
Like, no, seriously, like he
that's probably
is
putting it
though.
lightly.
Oh my
Yeah,
God,
right?
but not like oh my God.
Well, so wait till the end of the story though.
Okay.
So I and you see, I did it the right way. Okay. So I walk out the door and I'm heartbroken, right? Because I am about to give up my last year of playing basketball, but I'm not going to take that treatment anymore, right? I'm not going to stand for that. So I go get my friends. We're leaving. We are literally leaving the outside door. It was about to close. And he calls me. He says, Lee, hold on. Come back. Like, what? Like, I said what I had to say, and I had already quit. You know what I mean? Like, I was done. And so I go back into his office, and he didn't really apologize, but he said something to the effect of, look, it was something about, yes, I know you made a mistake, and I know you work hard, blah blah blah. His way of saying I'm sorry, but didn't say that.
Yeah.
So that's what taught me. I knew I had done it the right way, right? And I was willing. I can't believe I was willing to quit, but that's how much I was not going to take any more disrespect from him.
Yeah, good for him.
And
Did you stay? Did you stay though? You didn't.
I stayed on the team.
You stayed on the team.
I stayed on the team.
Okay, then I pull back what I just said.
You're right. He was. That doesn't change what he was. He definitely was a jackass.
I don't have to feel bad for saying it.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. He definitely was. But I share that because when I got home, because I got home late, right? Because of all this time. So my mom was like, what happened? Told her this whole thing. And she felt awful. And she was like, I wish I would have done it for you. All you had to do was ask me. And I was like, I can't have you do that for me. It would not be the same if I had come home and complained to you, and then my mom calls the coach and, tells him what for. Not the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying about telling your son. And yeah, he has to do it for himself sometimes, you know. But what you say and what you teach him and those foundations are there. I promise you, they are there.
I hope so, because I remember when he was, I think he was 17. I don't know what he did, and I said, okay, this, that. I was like going like on him, and then he just stares at me and he goes, Mom, sometimes you gotta let me make mistakes because that's the only way I will learn. I was so shocked that I stared at him and I thought, like, where did he get that from? Like, it's wisdom. People learn from their own mistakes. Absolutely. But I said, okay, I hear you. Okay, from now on, I'm gonna let you be to a certain extent, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So I did that. Yeah. Oh
my God. You don't want their mistakes to be failures, but yeah.
No. Yeah.
And now as a parent, I totally get it.
How old are your kids? How many do you have?
She's one, and she's 12 going on 25.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful age. Going on 25. Why is she like?
No, well, she thinks she's 25, but she's still 12.
She's still 12. Oh, that is so cute. Yeah.
No, she's a great kid, and it's funny how you see the things that your parents did tell you when you were growing up. And I'm like, oh, that's what you mean.
What my mom meant. Yeah. That's what my mom meant. Yeah. So
absolutely.
Parenting is not an easy job. That is definitely something that I have learned. It is not an easy job, especially as a single parent, like my husband not being there and having a boy. If it was a girl, it would have been easier, but having a boy and not having a father, it's not easy. It's not easy. Yeah. Okay, so we talked. Okay, how did you get into the health then? We're talking about life coaching. Sure. How did we get into the health? Yeah.
Sure. The health portion of coaching probably came from my own health journey. Okay.
Okay.
As you heard me talk about playing basketball in high school, I was always an active person, active guy.
Yeah.
But as I started getting older, you know, I guess like the lifestyle or the way of eating, not that it was awful, but that catches up to you.
Yeah.
So I would say, try to put a year, but around 2014 or so, had probably put on extra weight, more weight than I needed to have. And I started getting into this diabetic range, right?
Okay.
And so I was like, yeah, I don't I don't want to have diabetes. I don't want to be on medicine. And I talked to one of my friends, and they were like, yeah, you know what? Well, one of the things that helped me lose weight, but helped me control and lower my A1C number
Yeah.
was starting to work out.
Okay.
So I said, okay. So I recommitted myself to being active. This is probably mid 30s, somewhere around there. And so that's what jump started my personal fitness journey. And it became working out from a few days a week in like 10, 20 minutes, just starting somewhere.
Yeah.
It evolved into like doing a triathlon in 2017, so along the way, I would say, and also again in my late 30s, I started to have a few more injuries, right? So that was also where I think some of the weight gain had come from, because I had had some leg injuries and leg procedures that, it kind of takes your motivation away from being active. So once I got back on track, I lost about 30 pounds, and I was able to maintain that. And then coupled with working out, I started, really like talking to friends and, oh, well, you're doing this race. And it went from doing 5K races. Then, like I said, one of my friends who I work with was like, hey, you know what? Why don't you do a triathlon with me? But I had never done one in my life. I was like, sure, I'm in. Didn't know what I was getting into. And so trained in the pool for like 6 months, because swimming was, I've always known how to swim, took swimming lessons as a kid, but that was my weak point, right? But did a triathlon, a sprint triathlon. There's several distances. I won't get into the specifics. So I don't want people to think like I did an Ironman in Hawaii. No, not yet. Maybe, but not yet. But so I did a triathlon, and it's swimming, biking, and running. So did that in 2017. I was still like working out, and then I started doing like obstacle course races where, it's, I don't know, 3 or 5 miles, and they have all these rope climbs and different physical things you have to do along the way, different obstacles. So like that's where the health coaching came in, because I'd learned how to commit myself to looking at what is best for my body, right? Because I want our listeners to hear this. If anyone is thinking or has health problems, right, you cannot out exercise a bad diet. You cannot do it. There is no amount of exercise is what's going to make you lose weight. The weight loss comes from what you put in your
mouth.
Yes. Yes. The amount that you put in your mouth, what it is. So I have been logging all my meals for about 6 or 7 years now.
Oh, wow.
There's an app that I use, and I'm not strict, right? Like I'm not following a diet, because I also want everybody to understand, when I talk about diet, it's really just about the food you eat, not restricting food. Because if you restrict yourself from something, unless your doctor tells you, hey, no more salt or no more this, if you restrict yourself from something, the likelihood that you're going to want to binge on that thing that you're restricting yourself from is more likely to happen. So I talk about diet as the food that you eat. So learning how to log my food has helped me control my portions. I can look at the nutrients that I'm taking, or what helps tie into the life coaching and identity and mindset, I can then identify on the days that I binge on something or the days that I overeat, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's going on? What am I feeling like emotionally, right? What am I avoiding? What is something that I'm unfinished doing, right? That is more of a reason why you self-medicate with food.
Yeah.
That it's a and many people do it and don't realize it. They just think, oh, I want this or I want that or I want 2 scoops. Sometimes your body gives you these signals and we ignore them. So I'm able to tap into that and understand, okay, I've got something that I need to address, and that typically works itself out.
Yeah. It's you still eat meat though. Do you eat
Yes.
meat?
Yes,
Yeah,
I do.
but less.
So I'm
Yeah.
I'm not a vegetarian, and
Yeah.
I eat meat. Don't eat much red meat, but on occasion I do. Um, I would probably call it a flexitarian. I think that's becoming a term. So I do try to eat as many fruits and vegetables and whole grains, that kind of thing. I eat a lot of quinoa. That's what I like. Um, but yeah, I've transitioned to more plant-based things.
Plant-based, yeah.
One important thing, especially for people of color, that we don't really take into account
Okay.
is the type of dairy that we eat, right?
Okay.
So there's quite a few documentaries on it, but cow's milk typically does not agree with people of color.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because cow's milk is bad, but historically we didn't have those kind of cows. So if it's like goat's milk or something of that nature, that might agree with people of color more than cow's milk. But I've also transitioned to more plant-based milks, if you will, right? Like almond
Almond.
milk.
Yeah.
Yep. Almond
Almond
milk,
milk. Yeah.
oat milk, that kind of thing. Even
Soy, soy,
plant-based.
soy
Yep.
apparently is no good. I have,
There are some studies that, yeah, it
yeah,
depends on, I guess, like
yeah.
how the soy was processed. Because I do like tofu also,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
which is a soy product.
Yeah, I know. But as
So
long as you don't overdo it, according to naturopathic doctors that I follow, just yeah, once in a while.
that's it. Everything
Yeah,
in moderation.
everything
And
in moderation. Yeah, but when it comes to cheese, I am a cheese lover. Goat cheese is
yep.
always what I buy, and it has to be Greek. Don't ask me why. Because
Well,
it
that's
is
not
like,
bad.
yeah,
Yeah.
because they do the best. Like honestly, their yogurt is the best. Their
Mm-hmm.
cheese, goat cheeses are the best. So it has to be
Sure.
that. And I try to. I'm diabetic, just so you know.
Okay. So,
18 years now.
but you see, it's something that is you can live with, and people think diabetes is, this is probably a completely politically incorrect term, but
Mm-hmm.
they think diabetes is a fat person's disease,
Yeah,
and it's not. It's not.
it's not. Yeah,
It's basically where your body does not produce the insulin that it needs to, break down the foods and to process the nutrients.
yeah.
It's not.
Because like I
Yeah.
was good, like size 14 when I
Mm-hmm.
became diabetic, and then I was doing fine. It was the stress of my husband's illness that like started to lose on the weight, and
Sure.
yeah, the stress is more the worst enemy. I don't think it was diabetic. I was never like fat, but I am tall also. I'm 5'8", 5'7" and a
Mm-hmm.
half, sorry. So
Mm-hmm.
so I need to put on weight. Even my family doctor said you need to put on 10 pounds. Okay, I'm diabetic. You're telling me not to eat this, not to eat that. How am I supposed to put on 10 pounds?
Right. Right.
Yeah, yeah. But just similar to you, I have completely turned into a lot of plant-based. We're using a lot of almond milk. We do a lot of shakes, protein shakes. So a lot of almond milk, a lot of antioxidants, like the cauliflowers, the celeries, the green apples. And I am not a big fan of quinoa for some reason, but I always like
well, if you mix it with some some herbs like roasted red peppers or something like that, and I like to have mine cooked. So people have moved away from rice. Quinoa is a good substitute for rice because it's more of a whole grain than rice is. So but again, like, it's not for everybody, but I'm so glad to hear that you've moved towards more plant-based stuff.
My God. Absolutely. Not only that, like I when I do my grocery, I take a lot of time because I like to read, especially the labels. The instruction labels. I read the labels. Oh my God, it's an obsession. And
it has to be.
I'm obsessed now, so is my son. And the other thing is that also when I buy the veggies and fruit, I have to make sure they're locally produced. It is much fresher and or organic.
Well, Gabby, are you sure you haven't been through a health program with me? Because you're giving away all my secrets.
Oh my goodness gracious. Okay, I'm gonna zip
no. They're not secrets. They're not secrets.
No.
And that's amazing, because that's one thing that I actually teach my clients, right?
Yes. Yeah.
We start with really just understanding what you're eating first.
Yes.
But then in a lot of the early sessions, I get them to understand what's on the label. So real quick, I'll share this with you. Before I had gotten to the point where I'd lost 30 pounds and kept it off, right?
Yeah.
There is this amazing drink that the company's called Boathouse Farms, I think. And it's this soy chai drink. It looks like milk, but it's not milk. And oh my gosh, it is probably the most heavenly thing you have ever had.
Okay.
And I used to buy it, like they had these, I don't know, 150 liter, or no, it's not 150, 32 liters, whatever, a big bottle, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Used to buy 2 or 3 of them, end up drinking like the whole bottle, right? And wondering, this is not working out. Why? I'm not losing weight, and yet I'm drinking something that's healthy. What's going on? Until I looked at the label, there were about 4 servings in that big bottle. And if I'm drinking 1 or 2 at a time, not only is that like 8 servings of this thing, but then the sugar content per serving times 4, times 8.
Goodness.
Exactly. But you don't know that if you don't look at the label.
Yeah,
you think, I'm doing something healthy because this is a healthy product.
Yeah.
But you have to look at the label. Serving size is so important.
Exactly. And then some of them, they're so tiny. Like if I don't, like I remember one day that I forgot my glasses in the car. Then I went in and then I took this packet that I wanted, but I wanted the expiry date, and I also wanted the ingredients. So I had to ask this young lady. I told her, sorry, I forgot my glasses. Can you read for me the ingredients, please? That's how obsessed I am right now. So and then the organic stuff, obviously. And then I come from meat lovers from both my side and my dad's side. However, now I am reducing. I'm like a huge steak fan. And but I do that like once in a long while. Like I have to go to, we have a high-end steakhouse restaurant here. Oh my goodness. So I have to go do it at least 3-4 times a year, but I stopped. I reduced a lot. So I'm more into plant-based protein because the lentils, they're protein, right? There are so many different kinds of lentils.
Yes, there's so many types of protein.
Yeah.
I would love to share recipes with you someday, because also one of the things that I do that's probably little known, on my website, I share 3 recipes monthly at the beginning of the month. And then in the middle of the month, I will put up a diet specific recipe, such as vegetarian, vegan, a keto recipe, something like that.
Yeah.
I've been doing that for several years, and I've come across like great recipes, and people, again, when they're trying to transition their diet or, figure out how can I eat better, they stick to the same things. And if you don't like it, you're not going to eat it. Right.
Yeah.
But
True.
there's so many foods that you can enjoy that taste good and try different things,
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that is that.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. Can you tell them,
Yes.
can you just mention your website? I know I'm going to be posting it, but your website.
Sure. Absolutely. The website is liveallgood.com. That's LIVEGOOD. Sorry, I just misspelled my own website. LIVEALLGOOD.com.
Liveallgood.com. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going to be posting it. So, oh my God, okay, I have two personal questions that I'm going to ask you that I ask all my guests. I don't know
Absolutely.
if you watched any, then you would know what they are. Before
I'm in for a surprise.
Before I ask you for your final words, because we did do over an hour, which never happens. Yeah, I think with Alejandro we did longer, but I think this will be the longest episode ever. But we still have a lot to talk about.
Absolutely.
Like we could do like a 3-hour podcast with you.
I'd love to come back on. I'd love to come back on.
Absolutely. We're gonna do part 2. Seriously, we're gonna do part 2 on this one.
I'm all for it.
Yeah. Okay. So if you had to visit 2 countries before you die, what countries would they be?
Okay. If I had to visit 2 countries before I die, Australia is on my bucket list.
Oh, everybody says Australia. Let's make them 3.
3 countries. Okay.
Good.
So we'll Australia's one, and that kind of is a bucket list for a lot of people.
Okay.
But I want to visit Egypt.
Thank you. My God. Thank you. I just love it when people remember Egypt, because there is a lot of history in Egypt. I think it was Raul Marin who actually said Egypt, if my memory serves me right. Okay. People are all about Europe.
Egypt.
Yeah.
Egypt,
Australia,
totally.
Egypt, a lot of history.
And I would probably say, if I had to pick a third country, I never thought about more than a couple. A third country, I would like to visit Madagascar.
Oh, yeah.
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 I would like to
I haven't been, but the movie, the kids movie Madagascar.
Yes.
I must have watched that like half a dozen times. Not a word of a lie.
Oh yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah. I'm with you, but like I want to do something like off. I don't want to do what everybody else does, right? Yeah. So yes, I would love. I mean, there's plenty of other countries I would love to visit by far. Yeah. But I think Egypt is definitely on my bucket list as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Madagascar. That would be interesting.
It would be like Kenya too, like, right?
Absolutely.
I haven't been, but unfortunately,
I would love to visit those. As a young kid, and this is probably why our podcast has gone so long, because I'm not short on words. But as a young kid, like I was into animals and wanted to. It's no wonder my daughter wants to be a veterinarian. I was into animals at that age too, and loved just the African plains and all of the animals that intertwined. I'm a lover of the Lion King, everything Lion King. So
oh my God.
I've seen the movies, I've had the soundtracks, I've seen it in live, the play.
Lion King. When it first came out, I was in the Middle East working. So my friend's daughter, who was like 10 at the time, she calls me, because her mom is not into that. She calls me,
sure.
Gabby, do you think you and I could go to watch the Lion King? I said, okay, let's go. So we got dressed up and went. Guess who cried? When Simba's dad dies.
Yes.
I was seriously bawling my eyes out. She did cry too. She's 10 though. And then I must have watched that movie also a dozen times easy. Like up until today, I love cartoon movies, the good ones, right? Not the garbage ones. So Madagascar, Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
I
oh
know. I
yes.
know.
So
So that's those
those are my
three.
three countries.
The three
Absolutely.
countries. Okay.
Yep.
And then you can add the
Egypt.
safari, the Kenya safari later on.
That'll be
Okay.
the fourth
Because,
one.
yeah,
That'll
the
be the
fourth
fourth
one.
one.
Yeah.
I'll do Egypt last, and then that way I can go to Kenya for the safari. There
Yeah,
you go.
because it's like 3-hour flights from
There you go.
here to there. Yeah. And then that is that. And my other question, my last question would be, what is one dream that you would love to fulfill before you die? One dream.
Oh,
That is a tough one, always a tough one for people. Something
no,
that you haven't already done or
that I
you're
haven't
not
already
working
done.
on, but it's a dream of yours.
Okay. No, that's not a difficult one because it's not something that I've done yet, but it's something that I've been dreaming about probably for the better part of a year. And it really seems to start, the pieces are really moving together now. So the dream that I have before I die is creating a physical place, call it a community, right? But it's going to have a physical structure or structures where it will provide housing for single moms who are trying to, rebuild their lives, raising their kids, getting out of toxic relationships or whatever, right? Maybe if they're widowed, that kind of thing. Also for homeless people who don't want to be homeless.
Oh my God, goosebumps, Lee. Oh
this
my
is the
God.
dream, man. So this community will also, it has this transitional housing for these people. The only way they can be part of this community and live there is by taking part in learning the skills that they're going to be taught. So it's also going to have some type of agricultural base, whether it's an outdoor farm that's organic.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same.
Or if you're in the city, there are places that do indoor farms with hydroponic techniques.
Yeah.
So we can learn that because there's so many warehouses and buildings that are just unused. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's going to be, that's one of the skill sets they're going to learn. In this community also, I would love to have some kind of a restaurant, a cafe, because that's also going to have transferable and teachable skills. You're going to have to learn how to be in the service industry. There's so many things you can learn in the kitchen, right? So many kitchen skills, but you can also learn how to be a manager, front of the house, back of the house. What does that look like efficiently? You have to learn how to order food. You have to learn how to manage your inventory. These are skills that people can use to live on their own. Yeah. So that's how you are part of this community, you know?
Oh my God.
And all the while, they will be able to receive coaching and financial literacy coaching, mental health services, all
accommodation
right here.
And food and real good food.
Yes, all of this in this community, and duplicating that around the country, around the world, of course, but around the country in all of these underserved and marginalized communities.
Yeah,
that is my dream.
That is so beautiful. You just gave me goosebumps. That's a beautiful dream, and it's gonna happen. Trust me, it's gonna happen. Okay, before we say goodbye, your last word for our listeners or for watching for our this episode.
It has been my honor and a pleasure. I'm so humbled to have been here with you, Gabby, and your listeners and watchers. I would like to leave them with this word. If there's anything that you're thinking about, if there's anything that you think you want to do, and there is hesitation, right? A lot of times that hesitation is in this one really word that we don't want to talk about. It's the F word. No, not the F word you think. It's the F word, fear, right? And there's so many acronyms for it. But if you are afraid, that's okay. Don't let the fear stop you from being in action. So to the listeners, to anyone watching this, I want to encourage you to do it afraid.
to do
That's my
therefore.
last word.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much. It has been so much fun and such a pleasure having you on my podcast, Lee.
Absolutely.
And we definitely are going to do part 2.
I love it. I will. You tell me when and I'll be there.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Thank you, Gabby.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So everybody, this is the end of our podcast. Thank you for watching. And until the next episode, stay blessed and sending you grace, peace, and balance. Take care.